What lies ahead for the United States Congress in 2014? Good evening, I'm Linda Lorelle. Welcome to Red, White, and Blue. For the first time since passing a bipartisan budget agreement in December, Congress has reconvened to tackle a new to-do list for the new year. The budget deal should mean no shutdown in 2014, but there may still be plenty for both sides to bicker about. Lawmakers are still feuding over unemployment benefits that weren't extended as part of the budget deal. House Speaker John Boehner has hinted at passing new immigration reform, and the debt ceiling will need to be raised, inciting what could be another legislative battle. So tonight, we look at Congress. What will they successfully check off their to-do list? And can and will there be a ceasefire between the parties? As always, during our discussion, we'll get additional perspective from members of our advisory board. To help tackle these questions and more, we are pleased to welcome the U.S. Representative from Texas's 2nd Congressional District, Congressman Ted Poe. And leading our discussion, as always, our hosts, David Jones and Gary Polland.
2nd Congressional District. I would assume that Ted Poe would be number one.
I'm number one, but that's not my district number.
So, Congressman Poe, at the end of last year, we saw this sort of different Speaker of the House, John Boehner, very aggravated at certain elements of the coalition that supports Republican candidates. Angry, in fact. Passed a budget, against some of those folks, probably one of your no votes. Recently, a farm bill passed that only made token changes with food stamps. So is there a new moderate majority in the Republican caucus?
The Republican caucus, as you call us, the majority are conservatives, in my opinion. So, but we have all the way from libertarians to moderates. Republicans, by tradition, are independent thinkers. We're not a bunch of sheep, and therefore we're vocal, and we also have different opinions. The Speaker is in charge of all of Congress, including the Republicans. So I don't know that it's a bad thing that we aren't in lockstep and drink the Kool-Aid on every issue.
And the debt limit is coming up, and you have a letter from Treasury that says February the 7th. It might go into late February. Do you expect the Speaker to support debt limit extension?
I think he will support that. He hasn't said, but I suspect that he will.
So where's all this money coming to pay for all the debts we continue to incur?
We don't have it.
Okay, so
that's always been the problem. The administration, every time the debt limit comes up, tells the world, tells America, we're all going to die unless the Republicans raise the debt limit. And of course that does not happen, but it's because there is constant spending and there is not money in the coffers to pay for this spending. That has always been the problem, and Congress over the last several years, not just this administration, continues to spend more money than is brought in. Two answers. One, people on the left want to raise taxes. And those of us who are conservatives say maybe taxes are high enough. Let's cut some of the spending, prioritize the spending. That's still the problem. It has not gone away.
Of course, the left just wants to raise wages, and then that puts money in people's pockets, and then they can pay their taxes. Isn't that a great idea? Minimum wage increase. I don't like $10. I like $15. Let's have those folks spending money. Let's have them paying taxes whenever they do spend that money, and it comes into state coffers, and we're all happy.
Well, of course, raising the minimum wage wouldn't do anything to help the economy. We need to get government out of the way so people can't have a maximum wage. The government's taking too much money from people who are actually working, and regulations are stifling businesses and individuals. The cost of regulations doesn't produce any product. Those are the things that keep us from having the maximum wage. And that's what Republican conservatives talk about, is the maximum wage, not just the minimum wage.
So you think the American businesses and people of wealth in this country are basically doing poorly for some reason? And because there has been an increase in wealth in this country. It just happens to have been at the top 1% over the last 3 or 4 years.
Well, it's a good thing that people are making money, because when people, like you say, make money and businesses make money, they pay taxes. I think we should not assume that people who make money, the American dream, are bad people. They are not. They're living the American dream, and in spite of government, in spite of the economic policies of the administration, they're still able to take care of their families, still able to contribute to charities, still able to pay their employees when a business goes broke. What happens to those employees? They don't get any wages. So wealth is not a bad thing.
You know, taxpayers, there are taxpayers, though, who are out of work, and they paid taxes to get unemployment benefits. How about extending those so that,
forever,
you know, the next million or so are not on the street asking for handouts?
Well, of course, you still have your state benefits. When the president